The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are proudly presented by the Belly Up Sports Media Network. My name is Ryan McCarthy. I'm one of the hosts. To my right is a man who is definitely not shoving a 5-layer burrito up his keister hole, Dustin Henry. Dustin, how are you doing today?
I love Chipotle, but not that much. I'm doing all right. How about yourself? I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. I had an enjoyable Sunday hosting at the house. Enjoyable Saturday smoking meat. And for all of you who have Netflix out there, recently Heels, which was a Starz original show, it is now on Netflix. I started watching it. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Enjoyable. So I'd check that out. Big week for Netflix. We got that Mr. McMahon documentary coming out as well, which we just may do some content around that. But that's a topic for another time.
That it is. But in the I'll talk about that burrito thing in just a second. But before we do that, just want to remind you about our social media channels, which are listed here on screen if you're watching live or on replay. Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. It's at NoCredsREQ, YouTube.com/@NoCredsREQ. And on this podcast side, subscribe to the podcast wherever you find podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Pandora, TuneIn, and on the Twitter and YouTube side, get notified. You can hit the notification bell. That way you know when we go live or we post a video onto either YouTube or Twitter. Facebook, you get notifications anyway, so don't have to worry about getting notified unless if you follow us. And also rate and review. Rate and review. Leave us a 5-star rating on your preferred podcast platform. Every rating helps. Every review helps. On the Spotify side, you can comment on the episode you listen to, which is a new feature they've recently rolled out. So leave us comments. We might even read those on the air. And because we are a live show every Tuesday at 8:05 Eastern and pretty much most Saturdays, although things might change. Things might change in the future. So stay tuned for that. We want you to engage with the show, whether you're watching live or on replay on all of our social media channels, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Leave us a comment. And Dustin, I kind of had I had a little bit of a rough day today. We'll talk about that post show, but when we're off air. But I've been wanting to hear this sound. It makes me feel better. I know it makes everybody else feel better too.
Lift us up with the sound of those chimes.
So a little background about the burrito thing. So there was and I hate when people do this on social media because they get held to it. You had that guy a couple weeks, about a month or so back, talking about Florida State if they lost to, I think it was LSU they lost to, God, I forgot who they lost the game basically. If they lost the game to a lesser quality opponent, so to speak, he would eat poop out of a cup. Some Kansas State fan went online and said that he would shove a 5-layer burrito up his keister hole if Kansas State lost to BYU on Saturday. Well, BYU beat the brakes off Kansas State, and BYU trolled him with the punt. There's a big punt return they had for a touchdown in that game, and they showed a picture of him, a picture of the punt returner before he puked on the field, lifting his arms after he scored, with the caption, "Live Moss."
Oh man.
And now people are like, you gotta shove a burrito up your butthole now.
Yeah, I mean, things are there. That area is not meant to expand to burrito capacity. So I feel
No,
bad for this guy, but
I don't.
he dug his own grave. He said his own words. Now he's got to live
Exactly.
up to it. The thing is,
Mhm.
a few years ago, I think it was on Colin Cowherd's radio show back in the day. I forget who was on with him, but they said that if the Seahawks made the playoffs, they were saying how bad the Seahawks were going to be, and they said if the Seahawks made the playoffs, he'd shave the logo into the side of his head or something like that, and he had to do it. He had to do it because they made the playoffs that year. That was the year. That was Gino's like comeback player of the year type year because I think he won it that season.
Yeah, that was the season that they went to the playoffs and they lost to San Fran in the wild card, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
yes, and you some of the same football boys. That's what I called the group that I created with all of you in it. Some of the very same football boys were there for that one.
Yes. And hey, we might get together. We might get together in the next another couple of weeks to watch
Yeah,
some more football. I don't know if we'll be able to do the London game. The Jets and the Vikings are playing, but hey, I'm still willing to have company over.
yeah.
Maybe I'll make a little. Maybe I'll make my special chili that
Oh
day.
yeah, your chili's a great one, and also the breakfast hash. I remember having that because
That thing.
you did have a
Yep.
great idea that I definitely want to do, and that's a morning brunch game. So we
Yeah.
would have to do one of the European games, but if not this year, next year we'll make that happen.
Yeah. And there's plenty of European games down the road too. So.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we're going to stick to the present. We're going to talk about week 3 in the NFL. Let's start with the biggest upset. And I'm going to lead off this one. I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I'm going to lead off this one. So, my biggest upset of the week was not what you think it's going to be. It is not the Panthers beating up on the Raiders. It's not that. My biggest upset is the Commanders. Shout out to Drew Willingham, if you're out there, buddy. His Commanders beat the Bengals on Monday Night Football. And what I thought about it was this is a pretty monumental upset
Yeah.
in one of two ways. And that one, rookie is from the Commanders were led by a rookie quarterback, Jalen Daniels, threw his first touchdown pass on a thick six, they call it now. A lineman eligible is now called a thick six. That's thick with 2 C's. That was his first ever NFL touchdown pass.
Mm-hmm.
He also ran for a touchdown. In fact, the almost called them by all the old their dead name. The Commanders had 3 rushing touchdowns in the first half. Went up 21-13 at the half. And Terry McLaurin, he added 100 yards, had a tremendous touchdown reception to put the Commies up 12 with 2 minutes and 10 seconds remaining. Bengals added a garbage time touchdown, but it was not what you thought it was. It was not what you thought it was. Commanders controlled the clock. They controlled the pace of the game, which was absolutely shocking. I mean, Bengals even went up 7-0 in that
Yes.
game. They went up
Yes.
7-0, and the Commanders they took over. They took over from there, and Bengals tried to keep it close, but Commanders kept pulling it away. Just kept pulling away. And interesting, I posted this tweet in our Discord this morning. It was the first time this is the first game since 1940. I double checked it myself. I did the research myself. No turnovers by either team, and no punts.
Yeah, no punts. That to me is a shocking stat, and why you just may hear about this game a little more later.
Which poses the question: the Cincinnati Bengals. We know they've been known to have a slow starts in the start of the season.
Yeah.
We saw it in 2022. They went up going all the way to the AFC Championship.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it in 2023. They still finished over 500. Didn't make the playoffs, so it was kind of disappointing for them.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow went down with a season-ending injury, but they played competitive ball. They still finished over 500 in that wacky AFC North division,
Yeah.
which foreshadowing, Dustin might talk about just a little bit later. But if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, this is the 3rd year in a row you've seen a slow start from this team, but not in this kind of fashion. Not in this kind of fashion. They get upset. They got upset in week 1 by the Patriots. which was a game nobody expected to see. You had a chance to put away the Chiefs in week 2. Fortunately, the Chiefs, they did their thing and got some help. Of course they do, because of course they did. This week you got beat by a Commanders team that is young. They're learning to win. And they're starting to believe with Jalen Daniels in the backfield.
Yeah.
If you're a Bengals fan, how panicked are you right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, the panic meter's got to be big. The only saving grace is that, and I keep foreshadowing, we keep doing it, but the rest of that division, save the surprising Steelers. You know, it's not like that division you're woefully far behind, and we'll get to why later. But if I'm a Bengals fan, I'm panicking right now. The only bright spot for me was that T. Higgins returned, and it seemed to help Joe Burrow get a little bit more comfortable. T plays a role in that offense that not a lot of people, a lot of people talk about Jamar Chase, and it's deservedly so. But T. Higgins is an important piece and cog to that offense. And Zach Moss got the rushing game going a little bit for the Bengals, but there are more reasons to panic than not. Because as you said, Ryan, this start by the Bengals feels different than their previous slow starts, especially that loss to the Patriots. You can't open the season with that.
No, you definitely can't. And if I'm a Bengals fan, I'm wondering, all right, how does this offense go over the slow starts? How does this defense play competitively?
Yeah.
Especially the defense. If I'm some of their players on that team, and then you got to wonder if some of these guys are going to be dealt at the trade deadline. If I'm a team that's on the cusp of becoming a playoff contender, possibly a Super Bowl contender, I'm looking at adding Trey Hendrickson, their premier edge rusher. I'm looking at adding him to the roster, and they just also lost Deontay Smith for this season. He's on IR for the rest of the season. He tore a ligament. He tore his patella tendon in last night's game. That's a disastrous injury.
Yeah.
That'll cost you the season. That'll cost him the season. So everything's kind of seeming to fall apart in Bengal land. And if I'm a Bengals fan, I'm definitely concerned. I'm definitely concerned. Do I have Zach Taylor in the hot seat? Not necessarily.
No,
I mean, last year he had to deal with a bunch of injuries. This season he had to deal with T. Higgins holding out and Jamar Chase, all that nonsense. I'm sorry, Jamar Chase holding out, had to deal with the T. Higgins, not want to be franchised, wanted to be traded, want a big contract.
Yeah.
This was kind of a mess coming in. And maybe it's something that he could have controlled, but players are going to want to get paid.
Yeah.
On the other end, you got some things on the field to figure out, and his seat might be warming up soon.
Yeah, might be warming up, and it might be, and we don't want to play prognosticator in this particular case, but I could see, especially with the way this defense has opened the season, I could see their D coordinator being let go after the season. And sometimes you see that if a team underperforms, they don't necessarily get rid of the head coach, but they get rid of some of the coordinators and kind of send a message saying, hey, if you don't straighten this out next year, you're next. That's kind of, it's sad to think of it that way, but we've seen that happen time after time in the NFL, to quote the great Cyndi Lauper.
Time after time. Okay, Dustin, how about you, Dustin? I've rambled long enough about the Bengals. How about you? What's the biggest upset to you this week?
So your pick was definitely a great one, and there was a couple picks for biggest upset this week, but I'm going to kind of go with one. And I told my brother-in-law who was here for the football gathering. I told him, I said, oh, as soon as this game happened, I said that's going to be my biggest upset, and he went, really? They're both teams that have good records so far. And I said, no, this is the biggest upset to me. And I'm going to tell you why. The Vikings over the Texans is the biggest upset for me, because, and I'm going to elaborate, as is my wont to do on the show. So This upset over the Texans kind of proves two things. One, the Sam Darnold reclamation project is becoming a real thing under, because he threw 4 touchdowns in this game. He had another great game, and apparently he had an issue with his knee towards the end of this game. But all reports indicate he's going to be okay from what we know now. But the big other thing that it pointed out to me, the Vikings defense, their vast improvement under Brian Flores is becoming a real thing as well, because for the second week in a row, they stymied a high-powered offense. The San Francisco 49ers, if they are performing at their peak, I would still put them just ahead of the Houston Texans, but the Houston Texans offensively are no slouches either. And they really shut down the Houston Texans in this game. They limited them to, I have to double check because I did a double take when I was researching some of the stats for this game, because watching it on Sunday, I couldn't believe it. They limited them to 38 yards on the ground rushing. Now, granted, Joe Mixon was out for this game. Damon Pierce was out for this game. But Cam Akers is no slouch in there. We've seen him have success in the NFL before. And most importantly, CJ Stroud was able to move the ball against them a little bit. But they limited the Texans offense to just 7 points. Meanwhile, the Vikings scored 34. And Brock Purdy, after the San Francisco game last week, he said something to the effect that the schemes that the Vikings were doing defensively were confusing him out there. Brock Purdy, pretty good quarterback so far at his time in the league, and the Vikings defense made CJ Stroud look unremarkable in this one, and we know that CJ Stroud is a budding star in this league. So that's 2 quarterbacks in 2 weeks in a row that they have stymied, and 2 high-powered offenses that they have shut down. So I was very shocked to see the degree to which the Vikings handled the Texans on Sunday.
Yeah, that was a surprising result. I didn't get to your house till about a little after 4 o'clock.
Yeah, it was close to 4:30 or so. You had a long drive there.
I did have a long drive, even with one stop, just to kind of get a little refreshment for myself, take a little walk, use the boys' room, get a little something, little nosh, little liquid refreshment as well.
Yeah, a little pre-Cuban snack.
Pre-Cuban snack, yes. Yeah. Pre-Cuban with some an energy drink as well. Not gonna lie, but I came into your house and I'm looking at the scores. I'm like, wow, that's a pretty big upset. I don't say upset, but it was a unexpected result with the Giants and the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
But then I saw what happened later, and foreshadowing there may be an appearance of that for that of that. Talk about that game in a couple of segments. But yeah, the Vikings not only beating the Texans, which I had mentioned it I think I had mentioned it on Saturday's show. I had said that was my game to watch.
Yeah,
that was my game to watch, because I didn't know it was going to be a defensive struggle, it's being a low scoring game, or if it's going to be an offensive showing. And it turns out it was an offensive showing, just on one side of the ball.
Yes,
and then there was a defensive performance, but it was on one side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It was all in Minnesota's favor. So yeah, that's a pretty big upset. I mean, you could say Carolina beating the brakes off the Raiders, that qualified as an upset. The Rams being an undermanned LA Rams team at SoFi, beating a pretty solid, the 49ers. They're still pretty solid. I mean, they're a little banged up too, but they're pretty solid as well. So, but beating that team. So, yeah, I think actually no, it was you who had your eye on the Vikings and the Texans on Sunday.
No, I think it was you. I think you were right, because I remember you saying that you didn't know this game could go one way or the other. You
know what? Real-time research.
All right. We're going back into the archives.
And yes, it was me. Texans Vikings. That was me. Okay.
Yeah.
one of us, I don't know if one of us had mentioned Rams, Niners. Maybe it was the player to watch, but
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's one of those things that we both of us put things together for the show. You more so than me, but we both keep our notes. We both have the things that we're going to say, and then for me, I don't know if it's like this for you, Ryan, but almost as soon as it's out of my mouth, we talk so much on this show that sometimes I can't remember what I said week to week. I remember it's like anything else. I remember the things where I was actually right, and I remember the things where I was oh so wrong. That's it.
So speaking of things that we may have been wrong about, let's talk about the biggest disappointment. And Dustin, I'm going to lead off with you. Who, in your mind, which team or which player was the most disappointing in your mind in Week 3 of the NFL?
Well, for me, I really tried. Once I saw what game you were going to pick, I really tried to pick a different game, but I'm going to kind of go in a different route with it so that hopefully you can talk about more what you wanted to talk about with this game. But if you're the Buccaneers, you can't lose that game to the Denver Broncos. You just can't. We have, going all the way back to last year, more you than me, because you have a better idea of Todd Bowles as a coach and a defensive coordinator specifically. You and I, to some degree, have complimented Todd Bowles and his ability to prepare his Buccaneers teams, specifically his defenses, for out scheming the opponent and limiting the opponent's offense. But that just wasn't the case with this game. Bo Nix looked unquestionably the best he's looked as a rookie. The Broncos, the Bucs just couldn't get anything going against them. I mean, Bucky looked good. The running back there. If you
Bucky
want
Ingram.
if you want
Or
my
Bucky
opinion,
Bucky Irving. Sorry.
Bucky Irving. Yes, that's right. If you want my opinion, he should start over Rashad White next week, just based on the eyeball test, and also Rashad's yards per carry haven't been too good. But especially with the way Baker had been playing, you got to win that game. I mean, this is a massive egg for a team that we really thought had a shot, and still does, to take control of this division. But what an egg they laid there.
Yeah, and it's funny. I was looking at Twitter today, and it did say that Todd Bowles was possibly for the future going forward is going to look at Bucky Irving starting in the backfield, which I put in a claim on the waivers for fantasy football. So
I did as well. We'll see who wins
the Bucky Irving sweepstakes.
but I think I got a slightly better chance than you this week, because I lost and you won. So I may, my waiver priority.
My waiver priority is still number 4.
Oh man,
I'm number 4 on the waiver wire.
You might take me down then. You might take me down.
Yep, because you're 7th.
Oh boy, you're gonna get him.
Yeah.
You're gonna get him. I went to go grab him. I'm not gonna win here.
Look, I got me some Juwan Jennings. All right,
Yeah.
I got Juwan Jennings in both my leagues. I got Carson Steele for our league. So, and I want to beat. I would have won more. I would have beaten my opponent by more if I had Dallas Goedert starting instead of Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews had a big fat goose egg, and Dallas Goedert had like 20-something points.
I'm going to be talking about Mark Andrews later too. There's a lot. Oh man.
Dallas Goedert had 23 points, and Mark Andrews had a big fat juicy 0.
Yeah, a big 0. I have Andrews in another league. I got nothing from him. Nothing.
Yeah. And I did swap out Mahomes for Purdy, and Purdy got 3 touchdowns. So
I don't know if you were there. I think you were there by that point, because I think the Niners played a late game.
It did.
But yeah, so you were part of the contingent that booed me. But when Brock Purdy made a nice throw, I said, "Oh, that was Purdy," and a lot of people booed me for that one.
We all said this. Oh, doggone it! Where is it?
Oh no,
where is it? Hang on. Darn it! I don't have it.
Oh, okay.
I'll bring it. Oh, this is what I did.
Deservedly so. I deserve that.
I was trying to find the "Oh brother, this guy stinks." But
Yeah, that was where I thought you might be going. I was bracing myself for it.
all right, I think I found it. All right. Well, I'll have it ready. But yeah, I mean, in the same vein, my biggest disappointment was also the Buccaneers. This was a winnable game. This was a winnable game. It was disappointing in 2 layers. It's a multi-layer disappointment. Unlike the 5-layer burrito that the other guy has to
Ingest.
ingest in his porthole, in his exhaust pipe.
Oh,
Uh, this was a multi-layered disappointment because it was at home. It was at Raymond James Stadium. Usually play well at home, and it was against the Broncos team that would look generally terrible on offense against Pittsburgh in week 2. They were terrible at home, and the Buccaneers, the offense continued to stall, like they left it behind in Detroit. They moved the ball well against Washington. They did okay against Detroit, but they still wound up scoring more points than the Lions did and wound up winning that game. The defense, however, they were really disappointing to me because this was a team that could have gotten after. I mean, like you mentioned, I've talked about how Todd Bowles loves to scheme the other teams' offense to death. There's a rookie quarterback in there. He's not like Bill Belichick, where Bill Belichick licks his chops and is like, yeah, we're going to totally destroy this kid's confidence. He didn't do that. Because Bo Nix is Bo Nix is mobile. He's a mobile guy, going to give you some trouble. They surrendered 2 rushing touchdowns. Nix had one of the touchdowns. The other was by Jaleel McLaughlin on a trick play. And Nix was allowed to find 9 different receivers for 216 passing yards. So this was just a big disappointment. And I mean, this is a team that they made me a believer last year. Mm-hmm. They started making me a believer this year, especially in weeks 1 and 2. And that they ground out that win in week 2 in Detroit. They go home. They can continue their momentum. They can go 3-0. And like you said, Dustin, they totally laid an egg against a team that they should that quite frankly is not that good.
Yeah, they're just not. I mean, I'm not trying to. I know. Over the last like year or so, if you count the end of last season, I've appeared to have a grudge against Sean Payton, and I do for my own reasons, I think. But this is the best that Denver has looked in this young season under Sean Payton for sure. And it appears the Bucks, they got out coached and outplayed just a bit in this one, and this was one that they should have had, because you have to beat the teams you're supposed to beat to go anywhere in this league.
Yeah, I heard next to nothing of what you said.
Oh no!
Microphone became unglued. I was trying to fix my microphone because it kept moving around, and all of a sudden it went boop.
Oh no! Well, I saw you moving it, and I was like, I got to stretch a little bit. But I was basically just referencing that Sean Payton. I have long said that the game has passed him by. The Denver defense, which was good before he got there, it's regressed under him. I've thrown a lot of blame at the feet of Sean Payton for various reasons. But in this game, it appeared the Bucks got out coached and outplayed. There's just nothing to it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So this is the element I meant to bring up. I'll lay it on you.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
Yeah. People were not happy with me, and no amount of cheesecake balls could save me.
That's true. All right, we're gonna move right along to the most entertaining game. There it is. Yeah, the most entertaining game of week 3 in the NFL. I would have gotten full homer and said the Jets beating the brakes off the Patriots was the most entertaining game for me. But I didn't want to do. We talked about it last night on Victory Monday, which you can find on your local podcast form. If you're a Jets fan, you'll love this episode because I damn near had a cigarette after the end of that game Thursday night. So it was very satisfying. And I wouldn't say damn near orgasmic, but it's pretty euphoric. See the Jets actually beat the living daylights out of the Patriots for once. But for me, the most entertaining game was 49ers and the Rams. And as I mentioned, the Rams were missing. They were banged up, missing missing their two best offensive players. Puka Nacua, we know he's on the IR.
Mm-hmm.
Cooper Kupp missed this week, so basically I had to rely on Kyron Williams and Juju Atwell for most of your offense, and also their tight end, who his mind escapes me right now. I'm trying to remember his name.
On the
pretty
Rams,
outstanding game. I want to say Higginbottom, but I don't think it's.
Is it on the tight end for the Rams?
Yes,
that's Colby Parkinson, former
Colby
Seahawk.
Parkinson. Thank you. Who had
Colby Parkinson
had himself an outstanding game, and you know it didn't look as if it was going to be an entertaining game very early. Niners took a 14-point lead on the strength of 3 touchdown passes by Brock Purdy to Juwan Jennings. 3 touchdown passes. It was a massive performance by Juwan Jennings. Arguably his best performance since the Super Bowl, which the 49ers lost, which he caught a reception for a touchdown and threw a touchdown reception in that game. Because he was the first in history to do that. Well, 49ers unfortunately lost that game. Breakout performance by Juwan Jennings here. They lose that game.
Yeah.
And they go up 21-7, but the Rams just kept chipping away. Kept chipping away. Chipping away. Hold the Niners to a field goal. They score a touchdown. Kyron Williams scores a touchdown. They also kick a field goal. Jake Moody misses a field goal. Then they go down the field. And a ballsy play ballsy throw by Matthew Stafford to, I believe it was the aforementioned. Nope, it was a Tutu Atwell. Tutu Atwell, not Juju Atwell. Tutu Atwell. For a big play, which got them inside the 5-yard line, which got them inside the 10-yard line of the Niners, and Kyron Williams punched it in. Then they forced the Niners to punt. Then they go down the field. They were aided by a pass interference call. Kept moving down the field. Wound up kicking the game-winning field goal by, I remember his name. Jake Carty. It's a Carty party. It's a Carty party.
Oh man, your inner John Sterling's coming out there.
All right, I'll play it for myself now.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
All right. I play it for you. I got to play it for myself too.
Yeah, we're equal opportunity. We both get flack on the show.
It's true. But the Rams, I got to say, after getting beat by 31 the week before, and it looked like it was going to be that way again for the second consecutive week, they just kept chipping away.
Yeah.
Kept chipping away and making it more, making life a little bit more miserable for the 49ers. And they went up winning the game. Yeah. So good on them. That was a very entertaining game. I was kind of keeping my eye on the fantasy scoring because I had Juwan Jennings and Brock Purdy playing the same game. But this was, I thought it was a pretty entertaining game. I mean, NFC West battle, and it worked out for you, for your Seattle Seahawks, because Seahawks are 3-0.
Yes.
And both the Niners and the Rams are 1-2.
Yeah.
Actually, the other three teams in the division are 1-2.
Yeah, because the Cardinals are as well. And that's the thing too. And it'll be interesting to see how the Seahawks play the Rams in the Mike McDonald era, because for the majority of the Pete Carroll era, the Rams always played the Seahawks well. Didn't matter what the respective records were. Didn't matter if the Rams had 4 wins coming into the game. They were going to play the Seahawks well. There's something about Sean McVay and the way he coached against the Pete Carroll-led Seahawks that he always kind of had Pete's number there. So it'll be interesting to see if Mike McDonald fares any better, because as you mentioned, my Seahawks are 3-0. I couldn't be happier, but I told a friend who's a Niners fan today, I said, once we start playing interdivisional games, I'm going to be nervous because in my opinion, no team in this division is an easy win. Sean McVay is that good of a coach. I've extolled the virtues of Jonathan Gannon repeatedly on the show, and we know what Kyle Shanahan can do. So this is gonna be tough. These are gonna be tough games to win.
Of course, our old friend Snowman will say, "Yeah, but the Niners will start to separate themselves from the pack by December." They did that last year, and they did that year before. But this division's going to be tougher than I think he thinks it is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm starting to think so too. If the Seahawks can beat the Lions on Monday Night Football, which I don't know if I can handle another Seahawks Detroit matchup. They're always crazy, but if they could beat them on Monday Night Football, then we might be cooking with some gas.
Might be. All right, Dustin. What was the most entertaining game on in week 3 of the NFL?
Well, I won't go too much into detail of it because we've already talked about it. But for the second week in a row, the Bengals are a part of my most entertaining game. This game had everything, and yes, full disclosure, I did fall asleep during it, but it was just because it was late at night. And so, but I was so disappointed because the game was such a shootout that I rewatched the parts that I missed today to make sure that I had the full grasp of it. Now, both of these defenses, I don't know what this game says about both of these defenses because it was almost like neither of them showed up because, as you astutely pointed out earlier, there were no turnovers in this game and there were no punts. That's the key thing. No punts. And for me, I might be outing myself as a filthy casual football fan. I love to watch I love to watch good defensive football, but there's something about the offensive shootouts that'll hook me in every time. Because if you looked at the numbers, if you took the Commanders' stats out of the game and you said, okay, here's what the Bengals did during this game. Did they win this game? You'd look at the numbers and you'd be like, yeah, that's enough to win right there. But no, the Commanders, this was Jaden Daniels' coming out party. He proved he could throw the ball. He was 21 of 23, Ryan.
Yeah.
1 of 23. He was accurate for all those people that are saying he only runs it. Not in this game. And another bonus was the kind of resurgence a little bit. I mean, Brian Robinson Jr. is the number 1 back there. There's no question about that. And he did more in this game to prove that he is. But Austin Eckler looked a little bit reborn in this game. And it was nice to see. It was nice to see because Austin Eckler, a great player in this league for a lot of years, and he had been largely silent to start the year for the Commanders, if I'm not mistaken. But in this game, he had that return. He had a few good plays. I mean, he was out there, and if he can be a kind of a complementary weapon for this Commanders team, and also with the resurgence of Terry McLaurin, he's got to be thanking his lucky stars that he appears to have a more than competent quarterback now to throw him those deep balls, because Terry McLaurin could always separate himself from defenses, but there were not a lot of quarterbacks in his Commanders tenure that could get him the ball. So there was just a lot to like in this game. It had that prize fight atmosphere. And yes, the Bengals did get outplayed, but they managed to score, and then they went for the onside kick at the end. They were not successful, but personally, I was hoping that they were, because I would have liked more football like this. It reminded me of that Chiefs-Rams game that I referenced, I think, last week on one of the shows. And I love games like that. As much as people say, oh, I love to watch defensive football, and I do too. I appreciate good defense, but there's something about an offensive shootout gets me every time, because I think it's the dramatic finishes and the stakes ratchet up, because you're like, okay, whoever scores last is going to win this game.
Yep. Yeah. It's one of those games. You're definitely right about that. Yeah, it's like, I mentioned it too at the beginning of the upset by the Commanders. I consider it an upset because of who the Bengals have been lately and who the Commanders have been for the last decade and a half.
Yeah,
you could say. Our boy Drew Willingham will definitely attest to that. So, yeah, it's definitely some entertaining games out there. We had more than our share in week 3, and hopefully the trend continues in week 4 of the NFL. But In the meantime, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll go to the rest. We'll talk about the rest of week 3 in the NFL. Have some thoughts about that. We'll continue in just a moment. You are tuned in to No Credentials Required.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at RighteousFelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
All right, we got ourselves some craft jerky with Righteous Felon. Delicious, delicious craft jerky. Not only craft beef jerky, but also turkey jerky. You got the air dried biltong. You got the beef sticks, which are 100% beef and not the 100% beef. 100% beef, unlike that other convenience store stuff, which their primary ingredient is pulverized chicken.
False advertising there, folk.
And a beef stick. Can't snap into that. But
No.
you can snap into some Righteous Felon craft jerky. And if you go to righteousfelon.com, you use promo code BELLYUP at checkout for 15% off your order. Yeah, get yourself some nice savings, yourself some great craft jerky, and in addition to the savings, you get the promo code. Any order of $50 or more, you get free shipping with your order.
Yeah. It's a great deal. You know, you could save yourself a little cash, and I've been enjoying them. Thanks to that men's basketball win. You were a man of your word. I've been enjoying the original beef sticks particularly. I've had the Truffalo Bill, enjoyed that. Habanero Escobar, I'm still in the process of enjoying, both in beef stick form and in jerky form. And I think I want to try the Maryland Monroe next. That could be interesting. And there's a lot of different flavors that I am now interested to try because I've enjoyed it so much. So I'm going to use those codes. I'm going to get after it. I'm going to get myself some more jerky. And I suggest you do the same.
Yeah, they also have dog treats. They make their own homemade dog treats. So whenever Pickles comes over, get yourself some dog treats. They also have dog toys as well. It's not just the jerky or the dog treats. They also have gear to go along. You can wear some nice hats or a shirt. It's pretty cool. So you want to check out righteousfelon.com. And again, you use promo code BELLYUP at checkout. You get 15% off your order and free shipping with any order of $50 or more. All right, let's get back into week 3 in the NFL. We're talking about the most notable performance or performances, and Dustin, I'm going to have you lead off. To you, which performance or performances stood out to you in NFL week 3?
All right, my first performance, and I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, that's low-hanging fruit. Of course he picked that. But for me, it's got to be Andy Dalton. It's got to be the Red Rifle coming off the bench. I was calling him by another nickname during the football, but for our show purposes, he is the Red Rifle. The Carolina switched to him, and say what you want about Bryce Young. I know he's had a lot put up against him, and I know that his confidence is probably damaged because of the way that he's been treated to start his career in Carolina. But Andy Dalton made the Carolina Panthers look more than competent on offense, which I don't think anybody was expecting. Andy Dalton, Ryan, per CBS Sports, who is the first quarterback to throw for more than 300 yards this season?
Let me think about it.
It's not who you think it would be, because it is one Andrew Dalton. He is the first quarterback to go over 300 yards this season. He had 319 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Andy Dalton, for a lot of people, myself included, that heaped dirt on him he proved he can still play in this league at 36 years old. He's a 14-year veteran of the NFL in my if my memory is correct. But he, it was just an unbelievable performance, and you could see shades of what they were hoping that this Carolina offense would be. And it just showed that Bryce Young, for a variety of reasons, some of which are entirely out of his control, is not there yet. But Andy Dalton, he did enough to, in my opinion, be the starter for the rest of the season for the Carolina Panthers. Let Bryce Young sit and possibly learn and maybe rebuild his confidence a little bit to see if he can reset his career a little bit. But I personally think he might be done in Carolina, but that's tough considering all they gave up to get him. But Andy Dalton, hats off to you, sir, because I shoveled dirt on you. And my next honorable mention, I'll go defensive side of the ball this time. It's a complete homer pick. But it's the first time I've done it this season. Derek Hall for the Seattle Seahawks against the Dolphins. He had 5 tackles, a forced fumble, and 2 QB sacks. He was running around. To quote Mike McDonald, he played like his hair was on fire out there. So hats off to Mr. Hall for my Seahawks getting it done against the Dolphins here.
To which I will play the following element in just a moment. Please hold. Please hold. Yeah. It's going to play. Here we go. Homer alert.
Yeah, see, I was expecting it. I knew it was coming for me, but I had to get some. I haven't talked much about the Seahawks on this show yet this year, as far as performance and things like that. So this was the time to shout them out.
Yeah, and I will say it was long overdue, especially against the team like the Miami Dolphins. They're struggling right now.
Yeah,
they're on the struggle bus. They have the worst. They have the worst offense statistically in the NFL. They've scored 33 points in 3 games. It's 11 points per game. Their defense isn't looking as good as they ought to have been, ought to have played. And now they put their offense possibly in the hands of Tim Boyle, or Tyler Huntley. So we don't know who we're going to see on Monday night when they play. I believe they're playing Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
That's another double header. Is Tennessee, Miami, and your Seattle Seahawks.
Yes,
against the Detroit Lions. So
my heart is not ready for that.
It never will be. So my most notable performance in week 3. Talk about the New York Giants front 7. Finally getting it done. And I'm pretty sure most Giants fans have been giving the Giants flack. I mean, last week they did pretty good. They pretty well. They had 5 sacks against the Commanders last week. I think it was 4 sacks or 5 sacks. I'll double check. I think it was 4.
Yeah,
they laid on Jalen Daniels.
But they did get to Jaden Daniels quite a bit.
But this week against the Cleveland Browns, who are quickly their season is starting to spiral.
Oh yeah,
their season is starting to spiral. Yep, 5 sacks. I was right. 5 sacks.
Okay.
So but this week against the Browns, against Deshaun Watson, the Cleveland Browns, and Cleveland was my wild card, one of my wild card picks. Well, I'm starting to regret it.
Oh man,
because the Giants put up not only 1, not only 2, not only 3, not only 4, 5, 6, or 7. They put 8 sacks on the Cleveland Browns on Sunday afternoon. That included 2 from Dexter Lawrence on the interior, 1 by Brian Burns, 1 by Elijah Chapman. I believe Kayvon Thibodeau was credited with half a sack. They also forced 2 fumbles out of Deshaun Watson. One of them which led to a touchdown. I believe that was Malik Neighbors' first NFL touchdown. The fumble resulted in points. Always love to see that. So, and Daniel Jones had a pretty efficient game for a change. He played pretty well against the Cleveland defense, who they're no slouches themselves, but they've gotten off to a slow start this year.
Yes,
a very slow start, which has to be very disappointing for Browns fans who are kind of expecting the Browns to do something this year. And the front seven of the Giants held the Cleveland Browns, their vaunted rushing attack, to only 69 yards. Real nice. To 69 yards in this game. So I gotta give up to the front seven of the New York Giants. And it's not quite a homer. It's not quite a homer pick because it's a New York team. But I gotta give credit where credit's due. Giants defense played great on Sunday against the Browns. And if I'm an overall Ohio professional sports team fan right now,
oh yeah,
I'm
this is
panicking.
rough.
I'm panicking. If you're a Bengals fan, I'm panicking. If I'm a Browns fan, I'm panicking. I'm also going in despair because we all know the history of the Cleveland Browns, and especially how they've done the last 26 years. This is just not good.
Yeah, maybe they'll get Tim Couch off the couch. I'm sorry, I had to do it. But if you are a fan of any team,
Let me play it again, Dustin. No, you got.
I was going to say I was waiting. I was waiting for it. But if you were the fan of any team once owned by Paul Brown, you're in trouble right now. You are in trouble.
Indeed, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. They're at the Raiders, but who knows how that game will go. It's probably be a tie. Then they're at the Commanders, at the Eagles, and then they play the Bengals in Week 7. So it's not going to get any easier from here for the Browns. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, we got a comment in the chat. From Perma on YouTube saying Packers played great. They did play great. That's a pretty significant win by the Packers. But they have a touchdown, defensive touchdown. They forced a couple turnovers, played really great. And look at this. We haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, Wonka
the Sane. How late
welcome
am I?
Back, Wonko.
Welcome back, Wonka the Sane. Glad to hear from you, man. You're not that late. You want to go back and rewind and watch it from the beginning, go right ahead. But yeah, we appreciate you stopping by. We've missed you in the comments over the summer, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's a Seattle fan just like you, but I believe he's also from Cincinnati. So he's probably hearing.
I think so.
He's probably hearing the wailing and gnashing of teeth in
Cincinnati over the
Bengals right now. All right. Next, we're going to go to our hottest individual take from Week 3 in the NFL. And all right, I play it for you. I'll play it for myself as well. We got a homer alert. My hottest individual take from Week 3 of the NFL. Hassan Reddick, he's missing out on something special this year, I think. He's missing out on something very special. Aaron Rodgers was on Pat McAfee today, making his usual Tuesday afternoon appearance on the show, as is his want, and as is his, I wouldn't say contractual obligation to the show, but he's a regular now. He's a Tuesday regular. He kind of let it slip that Hassan Reddick may or may not have fired his agent during his current holdout with the New York Jets. It's lasted all summer. It lasted in OTAs. It lasted in preseason. Lasted during training camp. Now we're in week 3. And this guy's going to probably lose $1 million next if he doesn't report in next week. I believe he's already lost about $10 million. I reckon he's probably lost about $10 million at this point. His contract this year is $14 million. Wow. So he's getting fined for every single practice he misses, every single game he misses, everything. If he misses the bus, he gets fined. All right. At this point, if he misses if he misses anything, he's going to get fined. And we talked about it on last week's edition of Victory Monday. We said that the Hassan Reddick had the advantage right now because of what happened with Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson is out for the season. He suffered a torn Achilles against Tennessee. You just stepped the wrong way. That's the thing with the Achilles.
Yeah, those non-contact. Yeah,
it's a non-contact injury. You stepped the wrong way, and boom, there goes his season. They'll probably see the same doctor that Aaron Rodgers saw, Dr. Elatrashi, and go to elite rehab in Los Angeles while he looks for his Jets, and hopefully, he'll be back next season full strength. But based on the performance the New York Jets had on Thursday night against the Patriots, where up until the last drive of the game, where they put in Drake May, Jets had put in all their reserves, all their defensive reserves. They were 24-3 at that point. At that point in the game, they had allowed less than 100 yards total in that game. They got after Jacoby Brissett. They limited the rush game for the New England Patriots. This was an overall dominant performance. They had the ball for over 40 minutes in that game.
Wow.
40 minutes. I can't remember the last time I saw the Jets hold the ball for 40 minutes in a game. And I know this team.
Yeah.
So I think just based on the performance on Thursday, I think Hassan Reddick, he's missing out on something very special. And the addition of him to this team, to this pass rush, of the New York Jets, with him on one side of the ball at edge, and Will McDonald, who's quickly becoming the WMD, the weapon of mass destruction on defense for the New York Jets. He's already got 5.5 sacks this year. This is going to be a fearsome defense, especially the front seven, if Hassan Reddick eventually joins this team. And I think it's a shame that he's missing something very, very special right now. And they've got 6 days until Denver. They got a long layoff, 10-day layoff between games. Let's get this figured out now. Get you learn the playbook, get you learn the defense a little bit, how they structure things, how you can make an impact, and we could ride this thing all the way to New Orleans.
Yeah, I know that's what you're hoping for, but yeah, I just to get traded from Philadelphia to a team like the Jets, to a defense like the Jets, who we all know the window for great defenses in this league is not very long. They open and they close very quickly, and you would think that Hassan would want to be a part of this defensively. He'd want to make his impact, but it's one of those things. And hopefully for your sake and the Jets, he reports, he shows up to work.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So hopefully he gets the message, and they can he and Joe Douglas can figure things out and get him on the field sooner than later. Because I think this team is just starting to cook. All right, Dustin, what about you? Your hottest takeaway from Week 3 NFL?
All right, this one's going to be a journey, and I'm going to kind of take it in a different direction than I do most weeks. But to me, we got to talk about the AFC North. We got to talk about it because the entire division, save the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are a surprising 3-0 right now on the backs of their very strong defense. That's basically all they have. No disrespect to Justin Fields. They're finding ways to win games, but it's because of their defense, folks, okay? Mm-hmm. But the rest of the AFC North, which I thought was going to be one of the best divisions in football coming into the season, we got to call them out. One by one, we'll start with the lowest hanging fruit, the Browns. What are you doing? You got a defense that has some great pieces on it and has played very well for parts of the last 2 to 3 years, and you're squandering it because you're messing around with this Deshaun Watson garbage. Clearly, he's not the same player that he was. His shoulder, he got hurt last year. And he was never the same. He had like a burst where he started to look like maybe a version of the player that he was on the Houston Texans, but that was short-lived. And and Joe Flacco had to come in off the couch and save your season last year. Okay, Joe Flacco, the ageless wonder known as Joe Flacco. And now your season, as you said, Brian, the Browns season is rapidly slipping away. And honestly, at this point, I'd almost take a look at Jameis Winston, see what he can do, because that defense is good enough. And you would hope that once now Jerome Ford and Devonta Foreman, the combo of them at the rushing attack has not been great. But once Nick Chubb returns, if he is any bit the player he was prior to injury, your rushing attack is going to be better. You have some receivers in Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy. Maybe you can get Jerry Jeudy going a little bit. And if David Njoku comes back, you can get some great play from the tight end. But at this point, get Jameis in there. What do you have to lose? Next, we're going to go to the Bengals. The Bengals are 0-3. Despite all the talent that they have on offense, they are 0-3. They've lost games that they shouldn't have lost. They couldn't close out the Chiefs. And then they play statistically their best game of the season by far, but they still lose to a Commanders team that a lot of people did not have them losing to, myself included. And lastly, we're going to start with, and this was almost my biggest disappointment of the week, even though they won. And you're going to look at me sideways and you're going to say, Dustin, why are you picking a team that won for the biggest disappointment of the week? And it's because I'll tell you why.
I know why.
The Baltimore Ravens have Super Bowl aspirations. They brought in Derrick Henry, but then you have John Harbaugh, who I have respected as a coach, but I don't know what he's doing. I think he's starting to lose the plot, because you got Derrick Henry, who at the beginning of the season, they're like, oh, we didn't bring him in to carry the ball 28 times a game, 38 times a game. We're gonna use him as a complement to the other weapons on offense, and we're gonna use Justice Hill at running back as well. Well, they've got Derrick Henry going as a workhorse. There's no problem with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But Lamar Jackson has also not played very well. You got Mark Andrews, widely considered to be one of the best tight ends in the game, and you say that he's out there and he's just blocking really well. He was so good at blocking. He ran 4 routes last game, total 4 routes, and he was targeted 1 time, and he had no catches or anything. You got to get him integrated back into the offense. Todd Monken's got to figure this out. The Ravens so far have underperformed. They blew that game to the Raiders. They allowed the Raiders, who just got dump trucked by the Carolina Panthers, led by the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton. The Ravens have not figured it out yet. They could have beaten the Chiefs. I could be talking a different tale if they beat the Chiefs, if Isaiah Likely's foot was able to stay inbound. But the biggest reason that I'm calling them out too is they let a Cowboys team back into a game. They had the Cowboys beat. They were dominating the Cowboys, and the Cowboys, I hate to say it, Dallas fans, but the Cowboys can't run the ball. They can't run the ball for anything. They may as well put Dalvin Cook in there and see if he can do anything, because certainly Rico cannot do anything, and we know what Zeke is. You put him in when you're trying to get score from the goal line, but Zeke is not the player that he was. The Dallas has no rushing attack, and yet your defense nearly let Dallas come back and win that game late, all through the air. Baltimore's got to figure it out. This whole division, I had picked a lot of them to go to the playoffs, and the way things are going right now, the Bengals aren't going to make it, and the Ravens aren't going to make it. I'm sorry, and the Browns are a horse of a different color. What a disappointing to start for this division. Steelers, you've done okay. Justin Fields, keep doing your thing.
I mean, at this rate, remember a couple of years ago when the Vikings were, I consider them the worst 13-4 team.
Oh yeah,
ever.
we were calling them out every week. Their point differential was off the charts.
If the Steelers went 13-4, would they be the second worst based on their offensive performances?
Probably. It would be the reverse of that Vikings team, right?
It would be like, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be Freaky Friday. Switch bodies. Speaking of, we talked about the Commanders. Say his name and he appears. Drew Willingham. What's up, fellas? Tuning in for a few from work. I'll be back on Friday, talking some Canadian football on Total Football Talk Extra. Even though I watched none of the games last week because I was out of cell phone and Wi-Fi service, I still watched the highlights. I got some thoughts about last week in the CFL. So it'll be a fun time, and it gives the The good old look. Give us he loves us.
Yeah. And I have to tune into Total Football Talk because I got to hear him talk about the Commanders because I'm sure he's got lots to say.
He also says it was challenging rolling solo. I imagine
solo on the CFL talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember watching the morning show with Cole Johnson, and I heard that Drew was going to be running solo on that.
Yeah. I suspect he probably pronounced all the names I taught him how to say wrong again.
Hey man,
I'll have to go back and watch it, but
it happens to everybody. It happens to everybody. Ryan, not many people will get this reference, but I know that you will. In my previous podcast, Geek Appreciation about video games, the game I picked for Game of the Year that year was Valiant Hearts. Did I proceed to get every single character's name wrong in the game because I was trying to do it from memory? Yes.
Yeah.
And Chris called me out for it the next week.
He also said the show is only 42 minutes as opposed to the hour and a half to 2 hours our show usually is.
Hey,
so,
Ryan,
he definitely cut it off early.
If that's not an endorsement for what you add to the show, I don't know what is.
It means I have value. Thank you, Drew, for valuing me. But we're going to get out of here in just a moment. We'll be back on Saturday morning talking about Week 4. We'll talk about Thursday Night Football, Giants and Cowboys. Oh boy!
Oh man! What if the Giants win that? I'm kind of exposing myself a little bit, but if the Giants, if the Giants manage to win this Thursday Night Football game, oh man!
Oh, your Uncle Al's gonna have to have a cigarette. He'll be so euphoric.
Yeah.
And we'll get Wonka to sing with he'll get the last word. He says, "Missed you guys too. My hot take: Burrow's Bengals are not a top 10 team. Smith's Seahawks are, pending a Detroit win."
Ooh, okay. So you and I, Wonka, we're both gonna be. If they beat Detroit, that's going to be our first measuring stick. But Wonkos, you're going to have to respond in the comments because if you watch the beginning of the show, I'm very worried when the Seahawks start playing their interdivisional games. NFC West is going to be tough.
Yeah. He says he's going to go back to the start of the show. He says thank you for. He hopes to be a regular again. So yeah, hit that notification bell, my friend. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. And speaking of on social media. Go follow us on social media, facebook.com/@NoCardsREQ, Twitter, Instagram, the scarcely used TikTok @NoCardsREQ, youtube.com/@NoCardsREQ. Give us a like and subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on your preferred podcast platform, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Spreaker, iHeart, TuneIn, Pandora, wherever you listen. Again, rate and review, a 5-star on your preferred platform would help. If you're on a platform, you can leave a review, leave one. And if you're on Spotify, comment on the show. That helps out with the algorithm too. It gets people to notice that we're out here. We're out here in these, as Drew would say, we're out here in these streams. And if we do another live show on Saturday, so at some point, we gotta bring Drew back.
Oh yeah, of course.
He was so much fun the first time he was with us. We'll have to have him back again for a preview.
We thought MJF was going to break through the wall because we heard his music.
It's true. It's true. But that company's not with us anymore. Actually, we're not with them. So.
Oh, yeah.
Well, maybe I'll use that music on another commercial.
It was great music.
Yeah. Oh, so that's a good song. It's a good song. All right, we're going to get out of here, but thank you for joining us. No credentials required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are proudly presented by the Belly Up Sports Media Network. For Dustin Henry, I'm Ryan McCarthy. We'll see you back here on Saturday morning live at 10 a.m. Eastern. Until then, have a great night. We'll talk week 4 preview of the NFL and Thursday Night Football on Saturday. Again, until then, have a great night.
Good night, everybody.